the Sith Justice Warriors coming at you with our Sunday podcast regarding entertainment, comics, and anything else under the Twin Sons of Tatooine. I'm with my co-host, Princess Lumpia.
Happy Sunday.
Happy Sunday. So, there was a bit of a change. Well, let's F it. Let's just call it what it is. A bloodbath. It was a bloodbath that rocked comic fandom. And
Yep.
on my screen, everybody probably pretty much knows it. It's the DC layoffs, where AT&T, as per the title of this video, has decided to look at their subsidiaries and cut the fat. Now, we've not talked about how they've discussed possibly selling their video games unit, but we knew that this was only a matter of time, that DC Publishing, where all of the comics and all of the changes in directions from a creative and artistic standpoint have led to DC not selling the amount of comics that they're used to. And so AT&T, the parent company, said, hey, are you profitable? And no, clearly not. So there was a massive layoff. A lot of high-end, high-ranking folks were affected. Thankfully, Jim Lee has not been. He's been kind of relocated. But let's see, we've got Bob Harris, Hank Canals, Bobby Chase, Mark Doyle, Brian Cunningham, Andy.
I actually feel like Jim Lee was promoted coming out of this.
Say that again?
I feel like Jim Lee was promoted coming out of this.
He probably, let's look at this for a second. He will remain the publisher to focus on creative content and strategy, but he confirmed DC will be bringing in someone to be general manager to oversee operational aspects, which theoretically sounds better because sometimes the creative folks are not good at running the business. But that said, I don't know if this article says it. They've said that the person they got to run DC is someone who worked in esports, which is kind of an odd pairing. But, basically CEO has basically said, look,
time for change.
Time for change. The pandemic is a great opportunity to implement a new strategy. The way DC is trying to pitch this is it's a 2-year plan to get right back on track. They trimmed a lot of titles. And they're basically going to this model where instead of it being, and I might be butchering this, but instead of it being like run independently, like by a title by title basis, it's actually run as a brand. So someone worries about Batman as a brand as opposed to Batman's multiple comic book lines. So what that could open the door is the brand manager may say, well, Batman probably could be effectively reaching out to audiences by licensing it out to IDW, for example, who may or may not be a right fit for this, but you could see some sort of change there. DC has been noted to also go away from the whole diamond distribution, and they were trying to do the sell to Walmart like it used to be, right? So funny how they talk about the Bat Penis page, which is the Black Label. I think that was also something that got canned. So let me stop there, Lumpia. Sad day, good day. What do you think?
Well, we tweeted this. I was actually sad because whenever you hear about people losing a job for, no other reason than, the economy, the ways that things are, that COVID, it's not ever good news. So I feel for them and, my thoughts go to them because this is not the right time to be losing a job. Hopefully they got some severance packages. The good in all of this is that maybe, like you said, trimming the fat is exactly what they needed to really restart DC and really focus on what really matters to them. I mean, we were going back and forth on this, you and I, on this whole idea of what's going to happen to comics, knowing that like the physical form of comics is no longer meaningful when there's a lot of hidden agendas involved, when there's a lot of just other things going on, and that the more meaningful comics that exist today are the ones that are crowdfunded, that are Kickstarters, because you know what? At the end of the day, you got to give your clientele, from a business perspective, what they want to see. And if it's specific artists, if it's specific people, like you got to give them what you got to give them, right? So that's one thing that I think the good is going to come out of it. I personally think Jim Lee got promoted because I think not only is he overseeing publishing, but I think it kind of bleeds into the entertainment part, the entertainment aspect of DC, which to be honest is, I mean, they have a really good solid foundation from a TV show perspective. Their linkage with Warner Brothers and whatever, their TV shows, The Flash, Arrow, the Arrowverse. I know Batwoman had hiccups, but they actually have a good solid foundation of DC like TV shows that they can really build on here. And the last thing I saw, and I can't find where the article was, but something around the fact that DC is like HBO Plus is now going to carry the DC originals, which is interesting because before, I think the DC originals was just through their own network, their own online streaming. So that gives them a bigger format, and they don't even have to focus on the web. That's probably why they laid off a lot of people, because they said, you know what, screw it. We're not maintaining our own space for this platform when we don't have as many subscribers. We're going to join HBO Plus and put it on there because it only makes sense. So they still can get whatever revenue they need because HBO is going to pay them the licensing. So, like I said, there are positives that come out of it. Unfortunately, like all things, any sort of job loss is always a negative impact, and that's never a fun discussion. So, I'd love to get your thoughts. There's a lot of other inner workings of this, but overall, I think it's a positive move for them, for their company. What it means for us may not be so positive because it may lessen the amount of exposure we get to these things, or it might be better because, I mean, do you really read Young Batman or whatever? I don't know what titles exist for Batman, I'm making this up, but do you really read like Millennial Batman? Like, I don't know. I don't.
Yeah, and I think unfortunately there was going to be a lot of people being unemployed. I think where it all fell apart was that I guess and this is going to, we should all expect Marvel will do something similar. If anything, Marvel is probably going to look at this and say, did DC do this right? Can we do this or not? Um, because you've seen it already that they've out licensed what's his name, Captain Marvel. Didn't they also out license Captain America to IDW or something like that?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, I think it's the hubris that you have these timeless classic characters that you just assume you can they'll sell, and if you don't treat them well, if you don't respect the character and what they've done over the legacies of the decades that they've been around, the demand drops. And it's funny because, oh, it's a declining industry, but yet here I look on Kickstarter, Brian Polito's Lady Death, which is what the she was one of the icons of the bad girl era, but
Yep.
she was never Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, or X-Men, or um, you know who else, Spider-Man, right? She's doing gangbusters on Kickstarter, and so is the other properties under the Coffin Comics,
Because he does such a good job.
because
I
he
mean,
respects his characters, and a lot of the writers and artists that he employ, I noticed that he how do I say this? He allows them so long as he approves it, right? And
yep, yep.
and that's because he cares about his property. And you see that with other folks like Ethan Van Sciver, like his comic book about a frog. That it's funny because it's very polarizing because he's a very outspoken character. But when you have a creator, a writer who cares about his character, you see him crowdfund over $1 million for his Cyberfrog campaign, and I'm sure DC and Marvel would love that. But it's a product of hubris, thinking that Superman will. You could just try out Superman with one leg and he'll be fine. That's not how it works, and so maybe you're going to go to a graphic novel version where all the issues 1 through 20 disappear. You just make one book, kind of like the way they do it in Kickstarter and Indiegogo. Um, that'll be good, I guess. Marvel will definitely watch this and consider if this is the way to go, because it's only a matter of time. And then the final thought is that I'm going to quote Ethan on this one. These characters, these legacy characters like Superman, Batman, the X-Men, the best stories were told.
Yep.
They can't take them away from us, like the Dark Phoenix saga on the X-Men and all those fun adventures we had with our legacy characters. They've been told, and I don't think you could tell anymore. And maybe just reprinting them and putting them as back issues and trade paperbacks, maybe that's the way to go. Because for DC and Warner Brothers, they have so much material of good stories that they don't they don't need to have
Yeah.
creators anymore create new stuff that are junk. Same with Marvel. Does Marvel really need to change the X-Men to let me rephrase this.
Well,
Are they going
they
to do
killed,
the X-Men based on the current X-Men team, or are they going to do it based off of the original one? They'll
well,
change
they
the
killed
actor.
Kitty. A sidetrack, but
Well, I mean, I'm
anyway.
just saying is that the best stories were told,
Yep.
and so it's time to find new ones. And so we're going to go into this brave new world of indie comics, and maybe that's fine. Maybe it's fine. Like GI Joe, I can it's been taken over, so maybe I need to read something like Jawbreakers. Jawbreakers from Richard C. Meyer, another polarizing character, but if I want my GI Joe fix, I actually felt Jawbreakers was that.
I love Jawbreaker.
It was really we do need to put our thoughts on that because that the third one's coming out. But anyway, that's my final thoughts with DC. I mean, it's a sign of the things to come, but a lot of the people in independent comics have been the canary in the coal mine, saying you can't keep doing this. You're going to kill the industry. You can't keep doing it, and here we are. You chase away the old folks, thinking you got the new folks, but the old folks have money now. You should be
Hmm.
capitalizing on that instead of chasing them away.
Yeah, and the old folks are what honestly are keeping you going because then they pass it on to the young generation too, that they like their children or whatever. So
It's a
you
shame.
know, it's a shame. I
Yeah.
agree. I I think my last thoughts just around it are just I think it's good to focus on the key foundational fundamental pieces of their business. They just now have to execute it correctly. And if they can't after this big shift, then it really says something else. So we'll just have to watch it.
We will watch. So sticking on to AT&T, they are also looking at another division. It is Crunchyroll, which kind of surprises me in my honest opinion because I thought, I mean, you got Funimation, but who else is the biggest? If anything, Crunchyroll is the biggest, right?
Yeah.
Legit, and I'll say legit anime streamer, almost quote unquote direct from Japan. I know you've got Hulu and Netflix, but I sort of, if anything, Hulu does have a pretty decent, if not good, selection, but because they're so mixed in with other like TV shows and things like that, I don't really call them that. But
Mhm.
yeah, they're looking at it, and I know Sony's been wanting to monopolize anime, and Crunchyroll, rumor is that they were in talks to sell to Sony for $1.5 billion to offload it. The idea is that AT&T has been highly leveraged, and so in order to get some cash, they're going to have to give up something of value. And uh, given that Crunchyroll was kind of in this a bit of, some rumors about censorship of anime. There's been rumors about them taking the money that was supposed to be licensing Japanese anime to making originals, which originals were basically US based cartoons as opposed to anime. Um, yeah, this could be a sign that, it was supposed to be everything rolls up into HBO Max, but maybe Warner Media just wants to focus on the core entertainment, and the fringe hobby entertainment like comics and anime are things that they're going to say is non-core. So Lumpia, take it away.
Yeah, so you actually brought something up, and I did want to point out that New York Comic Con, this is a side note, New York Comic Con was officially canceled, and they are actually doing something online, the metaverse. So that's their Comic Con this year. I honestly haven't kept up with it, but when you brought up Crunchyroll, it made me think of New York Comic Con because every year they have a booth.
A
They're a big,
huge booth.
yeah, a big gigantic booth. It's not even a booth. It's like a big thing where you can sign up for Crunchyroll and get a bag that you can put all the freebies that you wanted from New York Comic Con in there. And so it just made me think of Crunchyroll and, maybe we started going to New York Comic Con, what, 4 years ago, 5 years ago almost? Like, um, that was like them trying to get a lot of people to sign up and try it for free, and then eventually you'd pay for it because you'd keep it monthly. And I think about them because, like, from that point when I remember them first at like when I first attended New York Comic Con to now, I'm like, who doesn't have Crunchyroll? And like, it's interesting that this has developed because I thought, like, I guess I thought the world of Crunchyroll because not only did you get the anime for free, so no more of these subs. We talked about it a while back in an episode where the fan subs, like we used to wait for fan subs of our favorite anime to appear because no one would subtitle them. Then you have Crunchyroll who actually brings it to you from Japan. You could actually pay for the premium service and watch it the same week, which was great because, with the time difference and everything, you would like, I mean, we watched Food Wars on Crunchyroll and we would always wait for the latest episode because we had to know what happened next. And so, you know, it's to me, this is kind of an interesting turn of events of what is going on because I didn't think this would happen. I guess I thought Crunchyroll was a really popular product that everybody knew about, but with the situation going on with anime, like what did you call it? Not privatization, but localization.
Localization. Yeah, so it's quote unquote localization, but it's essentially censorship. And
Yeah, which is censorship, which I didn't think was something that we needed for it
we
because
do, yeah,
we talked about this before. Like anime is a different, like I
yeah.
don't know. For people who don't understand it, then they need to do their research. But for the people that do understand it, I don't think there's any censorship that's needed.
But it's
Um,
sad because, like, for example, they're attacking on Twitter some Japanese studio for an anime I think called Uzaki-chan Wants to Hang Out. And do you want to know what the reason for it is?
mhm. What?
Because Uzaki-chan is uh, basically a well endowed woman,
God.
and they're saying it's not the right body type, and it's not the right sending the right message about body positivity. It's not
But
realistic.
this is like unbelievable because in Japan, everyone knows this is just a joke. Like, this is just their culture. So you're taking away, and we talked about this before, you're taking away culture. This is their culture. And it's like, I'm not saying right, it's like right, wrong, or indifferent. This is their culture, and this is just an outlet for that culture. It doesn't necessarily mean everyone has to have that body type. I love watching Battle Vixens, which is known as what is it called
Tosin.
in Japan, Ikitosen. They have women that look like that. They have a lot of like fan shots, but
Fancy.
I'm not offended. I like the story. Like, I mean, what is the big deal? And
It,
like now that you say that, like I'm just kind of like, remember that manga Sayonara Zetsubo Sensei?
oh my god, yes, I love
Could
that.
you imagine that one? What that one would go
You know
through?
what it's gonna be? It's gonna be the problem about Sayonara Zetsuba Sensei is about making fun of people's mental health issues.
Yeah, yeah.
It's about one person represents depression, another person represents obsessive compulsive behavior, another one is a hermit. It's like the stereotypical things, like one's a stalker, but it's actually, I could just see that if it was ever localized in the United States, they would totally attack it for mental health. On the grounds that it makes fun of people's mental health, and it comes to a point now where entertainment is just it's being criticized by people who don't watch it. And I could go back to comic books, right? The people that have changed comic books are people who really don't love the medium. The people who are taking over Superman, the X-Men, they don't love those properties because they're changing it to represent an idea that I don't know if it represented it. It's just people that don't love these properties.
And I don't know why this is different than me writing a book addressing mental health issues that way. That's what gets me upset about this is because there's no censorship around books, and thank God. But like then you're telling me that we're censoring TV like this, and it's like it's beyond me because some of these started off as a manga, which is a book. It's
Yeah,
a book,
and
you know?
what's crazy? I don't. Have you ever watched the this pop culture of not none of the fun pop culture, the Nicki Minaj, Cardi B,
Oh, my God.
music video called for WAP?
Yeah.
Okay, if you even heard the real song, which unedited, it's yeah, it's pretty hardcore. But I think the problem is that YouTube does not it monetizes that song, that music video, and it doesn't, like, an underage kid can watch it. But
Mhm.
you see people shadow banned for whatever reason. You have the Comicsgate people being tagged on YouTube. Anime is considered offensive, but you have Cardi B and Nicki Minaj doing what they do, and it's accessible to children on YouTube with no
That's what I'm
problems.
saying. Like, I get that there's a line to draw, but then that just means that you have to be consistent. Like, take a stance and be consistent. But there's no consistency. It's like exactly like you said. Oh, because Nicki Minaj and Cardi B paid us money, so we're not going to censor them the way we censor everything else. That's not fair.
And it's actually, I'm sounding like a Puritan here, but if you want to be honest, right, it's the message is kind of like, whoa, the kids at least got to close their ears, right?
Yep.
But hey, it's kind of an hypocrisy. Who knows? By us talking about this, we'll probably be shadow banned ourselves on this one. So, with that being said, please share out to your friends, and please like and subscribe. Hit that like button. Yeah. So, I mean, any other last thoughts on this one? Because I want to
No,
talk
I
about.
just we talked about it before. I'm just sad that it's becoming reality. What kills me is that it's not consistent. Then you're just going to ban books from us then. Because at that point, the source material for a lot of this stuff is books. A lot of the books we read when we were in school and had to do a lot of the messaging in the books. So you're saying anytime that there's a book that suggests something like this, no, like there's got to be a line drawn in the sand, and like then we're going to turn into, if you've ever read Fahrenheit 451, we're going to burn it all. We're going to burn it all because none of it's allowed. Like, come on, like
I hate to say it, we're already witnessing book burning.
Yeah, go around.
We're not going to touch it. This is not the channel to talk about that.
Yeah. Anyway,
But
that was my final
at
thought.
least Japan, though, it's been known Japan has been fed up with this because, quite frankly, they know that the audience in the U.S. that are serious fans of anime want anime to be pure. So, comicbook.com talks about how Japan's top studios combined to launch YouTube channel to stream free anime. What that means, we're cutting the middleman of Funimation, Crunchyroll, and anybody else and saying, hey, here's the anime. We're even going to subtitle it for you. And I guess it's free and they'll probably, I guess, get ad revenue. But you know what? There's no
Good for
middleman.
them. Good
And
for them.
it's gonna be called Anime Log. So it says it's been launched in Japan, but the ultimate goal is to share 3,000 anime titles. Top anime studios is Toei Animation, Kodansha, Nippon Animations, Tezuka, Shoga Kakukan Shueisha Productions.
Yes. Yeah.
Man,
Hmm.
my Japanese is so rusty. And Shine Animation. Um, I think the idea that Japan is taking their properties and controlling it, I think that's fantastic because as much as I love fan subs, um, it's tough because you're basically the fan subber that does those things. They have to take time out of their day. They should get paid. Like as much as I
Yep.
like it free, those fan subbers should get paid. It's a lot of time to translate it to get the context right everything. And I miss those days. We would go on eBay and just pay somebody. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Um, Granted, yeah, there was always free, but that being said, let's end it there. Lumpia, what's your final thoughts? Do you think that this could be something that will just flourish and you'll just see the end of Crunchyroll and Funimation?
Yeah. And you know what? Let it happen because sign me up. Sign me up.
Cool. All
Sign me
right.
up. Better yet, Game Pass. If you can get this Game Pass, that sign me up. That'll be something new.
Hey, you know what? If there was a Game Pass and if Sony had their PlayStation Now as a Game Pass and you could play it on PC, dude, I'm good. Dude, I will play it. But that being said, we will end it there. So that if you like our content, please like, comment, and subscribe. Hit the bell to be notified of our content as it drops. Also, please feel free to engage with us at our Twitter handle at JusticeSith and look out for more content. So, till then, see you on the Sith side.
Bye.